during our technical difficulties, hopefully you guys got to see Felicia's little clip. If not, I can always replay it now that we got the room back online. I'm going to go make a comment in both Facebook and YouTube, or try to, and say apologies and come to this place now. But I really am sorry. So let's pick up where we left off and pretend everything's great. Okay. Dan, how's your week been? Mute me on YouTube, please. Ray, mute me on YouTube. Thank you. Nope, somebody still got me playing. All right, thank you. Dan, how's your week been? Dan can't hear us. Okay. All right, Cheryl, how's your week been? Can no one hear me now? I'm gonna cry.
Dan just
Seriously.
disappeared.
Can you hear me, Cheryl?
Busy.
Okay, but you can hear me right now?
Okay,
I can
Dan's
hear you.
back.
Okay. All right. Just
I can
making
hear
sure.
you, Kelly.
Okay. Just making sure. Love the technical
Yes.
difficulties. So fun. All right, guys. So sorry. The main purpose that
Yeah.
I was telling you before we got cut off is that I will absolutely have clips. And as soon as I get permission from MACNA, Kevin, who's actually in the stream tonight, might even come in and let me know the rules. But bottom line is, I will make sure that those, at least the main points from those videos, from those speakers at MACNA Seahorse and Pipefish Get Together, will be available in some way, shape, or form, likely on YouTube. But we might just have to wait for BRS. Kevin's back. Hi, Kevin. Kevin? What's the deal? Am I
Erickson?
okay? Is it cool for me to share just the get-togethers, or is BRS planning to share those? Okay.
No, you and I can sit down and watch your edit and just make sure it's good, and then you can share it how you want.
Okay. Probably not the way I did tonight. But okay, very good. We'll sit down later. Kevin, how's your week been?
Just readjusting to my real time zone and wrapping up things. And thank you, everyone, if you guys attended, and I hope you had a good time. And just making sure that everyone learned something. I think everyone had a good time. Everyone learned something. Everyone had good feedback, and just sorting everything out and then launching 2021 to make sure that we can continue to be fishy and come together and build community.
Right,
I
absolutely.
really enjoyed listening to it, all of it. And I really also enjoyed Chad's presentation showing the separator, which I've seen before, out of the University of Florida or University of South Florida. So there was a lot of good stuff in there. And I thought it was very, very informative, and really, it was a lot of fun too.
Absolutely. And the thing that I love the most is that I mentioned in the last stream is that we actually got cut off because of the Zoom requirements and such. We got to talking for so long and letting everybody share their stories, and we had discussion about everything from the zebra seahorses to personal tanks, and people were, showing things. We got to, what made me the happiest is that Lucy's jet lag seahorse got to come in and make an appearance, because Lucy can't usually connect to Wine Wednesday, so we all got to see jet lag and see her a little bit. But I thought it was really good too. Our speakers were great. I did want to announce that also. Thank you for bringing me into that, Cheryl. We'll get back to just chatting with each other in a second, guys. But I've had 3 people, in case anybody does come to Wine Wednesday, because at the end of the Seahorse and Pipefish get together, we were actually still in mid-conversation, so I told everybody to come to Wine Wednesday. And also, I told everyone to email me if they want a prize. A few people like Cheryl and Sam messaged me because they know me personally, but I did not get an email from 3 people who won prizes. So I just want to say something about that now very quickly. We had tons of awesome sponsors, including Algae Barn, US Mycids, Reef Nutrition, Q Companies LLC, Harkins Aquatics, and then Paula Carlson donated some really cool items herself. And so I've contacted all of the winners except for Peggy, who won the Reef Nutrition Prize #1. Let's see, there was one more. Rajan Rajendra, sorry if I've mispronounced your name, so sorry, needs to contact me. And Matthew needs to contact me. I don't want to give out your last names on air, but if you need any further help in getting my email or whatnot, just comment in the comment section of this or message me on Facebook, any of that, and I just want to make sure to get your prize to you. So, and I see people are coming back into the YouTube. And Dylan Roberts, if you were the one that was speaking at the end of the Seahorse and Pipefish get together, I would love for you to come in. If you need instructions on how to get into this room right now so you can be live with us, you just need to be a member of Seahorse Sources group on Facebook. And then you go to the top and it's where it says rooms. You go into rooms and you find Wine Wednesday and just join. You got to make sure your audio works and such, but after tonight, we might just switch to Zoom. But at this point, that's how you get in if you want to get in tonight. All right, I'm done with my big speech, but
Kelly,
yes, sir.
supposedly, according to what I was reading on Facebook, if you put out the link for it, even if they're not a member, if they've got a direct link, they can join.
Well, I do. Yeah, I no, not if you're part of a group. If I do it on Seahorse Whisperer Society and then share it to your group or share it around and it's a direct link from my page, then anyone can join. That's why we discussed whether we should move it to that form, because when I put it as a group, or I'm sorry, as a room in Seahorse Sources group, then you have to be a member. Like when Cindy wanted to speak last week, when she tried to join, she wasn't a member yet, which now she is, but she wasn't yet, and that's why she couldn't join. So we'll talk later. I don't want to take up the whole hour, but go ahead, Dan.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, what I was reading was is if you put out a direct link, they're supposed to be able to join.
Check for the group slightness of it. I can't think of the right word, but yeah, when it's a group, they have to be a member. But I'll talk to you later. Okay, anyways, so Marina, I'm curious, what was your favorite thing about MACNA or the Seahorse and Pipefish get together?
I really liked Felicia's talk at the beginning and at the end where people got to show their own tank and seeing a few other people's tanks was really awesome.
I agree.
I liked all of it, but I think they were probably the two highlights.
Absolutely. And just to let anyone who didn't get to come know, the way we started off, Felicia covered flea horses. Jeez, I'm tongue tied now. Seahorses aren't that difficult, and she covered the main basics. If you got to see the little clip in the last group, great. If not, I'll work with Kevin to get better clips out. But bottom line is, she covered the basics and the important points of keeping seahorses, touching on Vibrio, touching on that kind of thing. Then we had Chad talk about culturing and his journey in aquaculture. Cheryl has already mentioned that was her favorite. And then we had Tammy Wise. Tammy Wise is actually the founder of FuseJaw.com, which we're trying to get back up. But she gave an amazing talk about really scientifically talking about the foods. Ray, you're going to love that one. I already know it. But Holly, what was your favorite part of MACNA?
Oh, I loved all of it, but I think my favorite was when Paula took us on a little tour of the public aquarium where she works, and showed us the sea dragons.
That was awesome, wasn't it?
Is that in Tampa Bay? Where is she?
Dallas.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't sure where she was from. I was thinking it was Florida, but that was pretty amazing.
I know it.
And then I liked her tip that when you see the baby seahorses are pooping red, you know they're eating frozen food. Because I had noticed that and I was wondering what, so now I know they were eating it from the beginning, because I did feed them to start a little of the frozen baby brine, which has a red color to it. So
yeah.
So that was like a eureka moment.
Just be careful when you're feeding your frozen to really young fry, because I've
Uh-huh.
seen it happen where people have gotten into trouble because the frozen became contaminated, and the next thing you know, I'll have to see if I can find it. I've got a
Uh-huh.
picture of a fry that somebody was feeding. What are the little copepods that are frozen? Anyway, and the whole area around the intestinal area was scarlet red, which was highly suggestive of a bacterial infection. I mean, it was like brilliant red. Just be real careful with that. Just an FYI.
From the frozen foods? Is that what you're getting at? Okay. Well, I'm curious, Dan, have you heard of either of those things? Because what Holly's talking about is Paula really kind of dropped a bomb on us. We hadn't heard that before. Had you heard about poop, red poop, meaning they're eating frozen?
No.
Or what
Um,
Cheryl's talking about?
I'm sorry, I'm not paying close attention because I'm
It's
sitting
okay.
here trying to set up the stupid damn computer.
No, what I'm talking about, Kelly, is an actual infection in the GI tract
Mm.
that was actually visible on a macro photo.
Oh, I got you.
And you can actually see the inflammation and the redness in the GI tract.
Gotcha.
It was really startling. In fact, I think, Dan, it was Beth Garrity Sebo that actually posted that photo. I'm going back several years.
Of red poop?
No, they weren't pooping. It was actually like a fluorescent red in the GI tract.
The seahorse would have to be pretty transparent to see that.
Yeah, they were really young.
Well, that's interesting for sure. Maybe if you find the article, definitely link it. Kevin had to jump out, and frankly, I major fail on trying to show you guys the clips from Felicia's talk. So I'm gonna save any kind of MACNA overviews for after I can get with Kevin and make sure that what I'm putting out will work instead of going through this and
Good.
having a mess. But I will mention again, in case you weren't in the first stream that ended abruptly, that Felicia is actually doing exactly what Dan's doing and getting her computer set up to join us on Wine Wednesday more often, at least next week, is what she messaged me. So Felicia, one of our speakers, will actually be here next week to answer any questions you didn't get to ask during the event. And I just really want to say again, thank you so much to everyone who came, everyone who participated in MACNA as a whole, because it really was amazing. And again, thank you to Kevin for pulling it off, because that was a big deal. He knows all about technical difficulties. But okay, so I'm gonna
She did a fantastic job of going through what you need to do to successfully keep seahorses, and it was very thorough and very well thought out. I was actually, I've known Felicia for years too, and I mean, she knows what she's doing.
her
And it was
talk
obvious.
her talk was actually like 45 minutes long, and she cut it down to like 15 minutes and still hit every important thing there was. Marina already mentioned that she really liked it too, so I will definitely, I promise guys, this week get with Kevin, get the clips out there so that you guys can see at least a little bit of it, and hopefully VRS is planning to post it, or I will if I'm allowed. So we'll let you know more next week. Now again, open chat. Anything new that we need to talk about, want to talk about, anything.
Dan, real quick, you remember I asked you about that red bulge on that one male seahorse?
Yes.
And you asked me, is there a crab in the tank? So I
Yes.
messaged her back. She'd put in a hermit crab 2 weeks earlier.
What kind of hermit?
Blue leg.
That shouldn't have caused that.
That's what I said. Unless somehow the seahorse freaked out the hermit crab, but I can't imagine that happening. Or she's got something other than a blue leg and she doesn't know it.
Well, my thought is that it was very possible for her to have something hidden in the rock that she didn't know about.
Yeah. I don't know. She's using the Alamax, and moving forward. I'm waiting to hear back from her, but that was it. Blue Lake shouldn't have been.
Okay.
And Kelly, by the way, I think for some people, Chad's talk was probably a little bit too scientific,
You think?
but for people that have been at it for a while, I'm sure they loved it.
Yeah, I thought it was
Yeah,
great.
I really enjoyed.
What, Holly?
I
Yeah.
actually, the copepods I have are the ones from him, the Tigger pods. That's what I raise. And yeah, that's the ones I get here from our local fish store because I'm in California also.
One question, and Dan may be able to help out more with this. The problem with the tiger pods is they actually have hooks on their hook-like appendages that they use to cling to the rock because they actually get out of the water and get washed up onto the rocks. And I know years ago there was a discussion about somebody had a microscope and actually saw them clawing out of the fry. And so back then we were told don't feed the tiger pods. You remember that, Dan?
Yes.
Hmm.
I never recommend using tiger pods with small fry. Larger fry is okay, but smaller fry, no. They'll irritate them and you can end up with losses because of it.
Just an FYI that might help you out.
Yeah, I didn't have any problems with them.
Okay,
But,
good.
But most of them were, I mean, they're a lot smaller than the seahorses. I don't think, they ever caused any problems with them.
Cool. Reed Mariculture is there in California. And just an FYI, I love, and I've been raising the Panamensis pods for a very long time. They reproduce extremely rapidly. They are an ideal size for newborn fry. And they're so darn easy to raise. You can raise them on phyto paste. Jim Welsh was one of the first people that started working with them years ago.
Yep.
And yeah, I love them. Just to,
What company was that?
Okay, Reed Nutrition or Reed Mariculture, they're the same company.
Okay, that's what I used is Reef Nutrition, I think. Wasn't that where Chad was from?
Yeah, it's Chad Clayton is the. But the Panamensis pods are, as adults, they're slightly larger than newborn baby brine shrimp, and depending on what species you're raising, they make a great first food for neonatal like erectus, or you go down to some of the smaller ones and sort them, and they're great food for some of the species that produce the tiny pelagic fry, like reed-eye and combs and cuda and some of those. I'm just throwing it out there for you.
What kind were they? The species?
They call them their apex pods.
Apex pods.
APEX. They're Epocyclops panamensis.
Yeah, I'll look for. I think the only ones they have here are Tigger pods. I think that's why I have those. But they've been easy.
It was bad because he's done a lot of extensive research on the apex pods.
Yeah, I'll check them out. I mean,
to be real with you guys,
I don't have that much on this batch. Hopefully,
right? But you'll have more soon.
I'm hoping not to get too many more in the future. But
you'll get more soon.
Right now,
the tiger pods are larger, and these work real well for newborn fry.
Yeah, they are kind of big. I have sieves though that where I can separate out the babies from the adults if I want, so that doesn't really bother me.
Sure. And I will mention, guys, that Chad did a very long interview, like literally turned into 3 videos with me when I first started. So the videos aren't high quality, but he really does go through everything about himself, everything about culturing, everything about everything, which I'll try to link when we're done. But just search on Seahorse Whisperer on YouTube, Chad Clayton, and you'll find it. Or Copa God, which is his nickname. And as I mentioned, we'll make sure we get either BRS to post the get together, or I'll get some approved clips so you guys can hear the speeches at least. So, but yeah, he's great. He's great. And the Apex Panamensis, I always Apocyclops Panamensis. That's it. They are
Yep.
great, and they're really great for, breeders. It would be my top thought.
They're considered to be basically a benthic species.
Mhm.
However, the newborn larvae are pelagic, which also they stay in the water column, which makes it really nice.
Sure. And the one thing I remember the most is that they will take the not dead but not live algae that Reef Nutrition
They do
specializes
not
in.
require live phyto.
Right.
You can use the algae paste on them, and they go crazy and grow like gangbusters, which makes them really
that's
easy.
what I feed mine, the phyto paste. I freeze it in cubes.
Yeah, the tiger pods should also take the paste.
Yeah, they do. I read an article online about how to raise them, and that's how I started with those. And then also, it's interesting. I have 2 buckets of copepods that I don't do anything with. I don't feed them, nothing. I just put them outside in buckets because I read that in this guy's book. That's how he does it. And sure enough, they're fine on their own. It's crazy.
Oh yeah.
I do nothing. I don't feed them. They don't have air, nothing.
Wow.
What? Those are some tough pods.
Hey,
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
curious.
he said, put buckets outside. He says, and put your culture in it. Algae will start growing on its own from stuff that falls in the bucket. I have window screen over the tops of it to keep out leaves and big stuff. But I was just curious, so I did it, and sure enough, it works.
Yeah. Well, you can even, like here in Texas, when we get cold in the winter and we get snow, even you can set them up in a window so they get plenty of sunlight. They really don't require a whole lot to
Yeah, it's crazy.
Sure. I'm curious
That
though.
brine shrimp working that way too.
Well,
some big brine shrimp pulled up, and they're fine too. I don't do anything to them.
See, but the thing is, and I'm not knocking you at all, Holly, because I know many people, like one of my mentors in Britain, does things almost exactly the same way that you're talking about. But literally last week, and I know we're going to talk about it a lot more in the future. Dan, can I call your attention? Are you here with us?
Yes, you got it.
Okay.
Yep.
Isn't it like, yes, you can do copepods. Yes, you can do brine shrimp in a very easy manner where, you're not doing much for them. There's not much air, blah, blah, blah. But doesn't that end up being a big problem as far as biosecurity and that kind of thing, bacteria, or no?
I'm not sure I'm understanding what you're saying.
Like if you set up, Holly, say how your copepods are set up again.
Oh, well, these aren't the ones I use for feeding. I just did it to see what would happen because I read it.
Okay.
So I have 2 buckets that I just put copepods in there because I read in a book, this guy had said you could just put them outside, not feed them, not give them air, just put a couple buckets outside and they'll live off whatever falls in the bucket. Algae will grow, that type of thing. So I have 2 buckets covered up with window screen just to keep the big stuff out.
Yep.
And sure enough, the copepods are doing fine in there, and I do nothing. Yeah, it was just kind of an experiment. So,
and I wasn't.
They will for the summer. We did a similar experiment with a brine shrimp tank. We took a 200-gallon tank, dumped some Archimenopoly in there, and it was essentially a perpetual tank for the summer. One can argue back and forth about the biosecurity issue. If I had something a little bit bigger, I'd probably be more comfortable with it. But I would certainly rinse everything extremely well, but I would give it a try.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we're already rinsing everything well and using the peroxide and everything. So if you're doing that, I don't see the difference of what the container is really.
That's true.
I was
The
thinking
one thing
more
I would
about
do,
the nutrition
I
they're getting, though. If you're not
right.
feeding them, what kind of nutrition are they getting out there in the woods?
Well, copepods are different than Artemia because copepods have a whole different profile. You don't have to gut load them to get the nutrition. They develop their
Ah,
own thing by what they eat.
I
Um,
see.
but but I would want to put probiotics in there if nothing else.
Yeah,
I see.
I know a lot of people in the UK that during the summer months they leave their they harvest their pod cultures from the ocean and leave them outside and let them proliferate. And they actually use the kiddie swimming pools. So
Hmm.
that's what they're doing. I
Well,
have never
that's where I
tried.
read it, Carol. It was a book written by a guy in Great Britain. And I was wondering, I'm like,
Well,
how could he do that? Maybe our weather's different where I
mm,
am in California. I thought maybe it was too hot here compared to where he is, or too cold in the winter. But I'll be darned if it didn't work.
I'm wondering if it's Martin or who it was. Could have been Martin. Anyway,
I could grab the book.
Hey, while she does that, what else is going on, guys? Well, that's nothing like,
well,
that's always fun, dead air. This is, I really think, I was on the spot tonight trying to get back from the volleyball game. But I think that when we have a speaker or a topic posted that we can actually start the event, the night off with, that seems to do better. So with Felicia saying she might come next week, if you're watching, Felicia, I absolutely promise we'll have her S star T together and and maybe get you more comfortable here. But sorry, go ahead, show Holly.
Here's the book. It's Mike French.
oh yeah, okay.
It's,
He's
it's
the other one.
Seahorses for Beginners. Mike French
Yeah.
is the author.
He's
I just
written
got kicked
several
out of
books.
that, so I had to try it.
Yeah, he's written several books.
So wait, in that book it says to do it that way?
Yeah,
Huh.
he said you can do this. And
Neat. Very cool.
Apparently, the UK though, they don't have any of the smaller pods that they can use for neonatal pelagic fry. All their pods, from everything I've been told, is their pods are typically much larger than the ones we have around here, and which
interesting.
is kind of interesting. Again, I don't know where they're harvesting them from, so I can't say for certain.
Hmm.
And Chris Carey, I see you commenting. Feel free to jump in if you'd like, or definitely I'm working on what you asked. So, and I'm a tad worried, guys, that there was some confusion with the switching streams. So it's open chat, just chat. Dang it.
Dan, do you have any other ideas what might have caused the damage to that one male seahorse?
My idea would simply be that either the sting or something got a hold of it.
Something, yeah. Well, was my, and I posted back that a blue leg should not do that, and I advised the keeper to check the tank at like after dark and stuff, and see what else might be in that tank, because that was definitely some serious damage.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think that
definitely.
would be. I saw that, and I did have a blue leg hermit crab wrestle with my male seahorse when I first got him. They were rolling around on the floor thrashing, and I was surprised, but no one got hurt. I had to pull them out of the water to get the crab to let go, and it was
Yeah.
just a tiny blue-legged crab. I never had that happen since. That was over a year ago. It was just a crazy thing, but it didn't hurt the seahorse.
Well,
I've seen them get
the
hurt.
red legions
By a blue leg crab?
Yep, I don't keep crabs
red
at all in my
leg
tanks.
discoloration and edema was consistent in what Lisa found after she had the two seahorses that were stung by the nymph. And I'm thinking she's got something else in that tank.
Hmm. Have you seen a lot of people successful? I know there is a difference between blue and red leg. I know the red leg are more aggressive. I've personally just always avoided them because when I first started out, I was told don't do crabs. But have you seen a lot of people successful with them?
Yeah, I've seen very few people have any issues with them.
There you go.
I've
So,
had crabs over a year. I've never had any issues other than that one time. And it seems to be almost like they get to know each other once they're tank mates. They can walk next. They leave each other alone. It's almost like a personality thing. Like they realize,
mm, get their territories going
I
on.
think got attacked because he was new. I think they kind of surprised each other.
Mm,
Like, who are you? What are you doing there? And I think once they are kind of used to each other, there's no problems from what I've seen in my tank.
Well,
gotcha.
I keep my tank sterile pretty much, so I don't have crabs and stuff like that in there. So it's one of those things where my thing is propagation, and always has been. And so everything that goes into the tank starts out sterile.
Mm.
And this same individual is having a major problem with bristleworms.
Well,
So
I'd
I'm
like to.
still trying to.
I'd like to hear if you feel like it. Not trying to put you on the spot here, Marina, but you are more into keeping a very efficient and working well seahorse tank, but with more of the natural look, right? Um, what are your thoughts on crabs and keeping live rock and stuff like that?
I really love hermit crabs. I had them for a while in my reef, but gave them away just because I find um the big variety you can get of sort of helpful snails a bit more helpful, and my hermit crabs were killing them for the shells, even though they had a million other shells they could go for. I guess they wanted the snack and the new home
Yep.
rolled into one. Um, so I don't keep um hermit crabs anymore.
Mm.
Although I might get a few from my sump because I really really love them. Um,
Well, just for the record, just because I don't, Dan, Holly, everybody else does with no problem. Other people say it's fine, so don't not do it just because of me. But and you have you ever had any problems? Because you use mainly live rock and sand and things like that, right?
um, it's live rock now, but it started off all completely dry.
Okay, so you didn't have many hitchhiker issues.
I've still managed to, I don't know how, but I've still got bristleworms which I've been trying to trap out,
Mm.
which is amazing that they even have made it to the tank because I started with completely dry rock and sand and sort of cycled the tank first, and all my corals, whether they go into the reef or the seahorse tank, are quarantined for 3 months first,
Mm.
and they're dipped on the way in and on the way out. And
Jeez.
there are some things that still make it through, like bristleworms.
Well, those little
Wow.
worms, man, I've seen them in my tanks too because you get anything you add, those little suckers, they're like other worms or whatnot, or like kind of, they remind me of the starfish where you can break them and I'm not telling anybody to break them in half, guys, but I'm saying a little itty
Make 'em
bitty
all-
piece of one will grow to another worm. It's insane. So, what,
They're
Cheryl?
so
Oh,
gross.
they're so gross. I know.
They're just, I don't like them.
I mean, a lot in the reef, they have a job. They're good for the reef tank for sure. But how many times have you guys heard of a seahorse have? I've never had a seahorse have trouble with bristleworms, but I've heard it like mainly about a seahorse
I
trying to eat
haven't
one.
had any trouble.
And yours
I
haven't.
haven't had any trouble. I have bristleworms in my tank, and I haven't had any trouble so far. I worry about it, but I haven't seen anything happen.
Gotcha. Well, I don't think they like purposefully go out and sting them or anything, but I
No,
just think
I
it's if they
think
try
they're
to eat
like
them.
a cactus. I think they just touch. I think it's like a cactus. If they try to take a bite out of it,
Yeah.
or they touch it, like we step on a cactus or something, they'll get stabbed.
Yep.
But I haven't had any trouble yet.
Good to know. Hey, Dylan Roberts, glad you made it back. I'm really curious if you were the person that was at the Seahorse and Pipefish get together. I'm trying to remember the actual name of the person who was sharing. I think his girlfriend's name was Liz. I could be wrong. And I will go back and look and be prepared next week. But I'm hoping that he comes to Wine Wednesday because he was asking some great questions that I really wanted this group to have the opportunity to answer. But I don't know if that's you. So if it's you and you need instructions on how to get into the room, or you want to ask your questions in the comments, please feel free to do so. Hey, S2K Chris 305, welcome, welcome. It's open chat tonight, guys. So as we're just chatting away, we had some technical difficulties. Ask your questions because I probably won't have this stream tonight last too much longer, only because I've got to fix some stuff. So, but open chat, ask your questions in the comments, or feel free to jump in, and you guys go ahead and keep chatting. We cover bristleworms. What else? Excuse me.
Dead silence.
Of course, always. That's why a topic's good. Open chat, it usually gets going, but sometimes it takes a little nudge or push, Have you guys seen any good posts lately? Anything that could be answered?
Well, one of my mail combs that Dan sent me. If
Yeah.
he's not now, he will be very soon, which is great. Been nursing them along, and it's so nice to see. He's just all of a sudden he's gotten huge, and he's eating everything in sight. He's always starving.
Of course,
which indicates that he's cycling into breeding condition.
I think.
Cross your fingers for me.
Of course. And Cheryl, I think I saw a post recently where you were worried about one of your seahorses, weren't you?
I'm sorry?
Weren't you worried about a seahorse that you got from someone else? I'm crossing fingers for you, but about breeding, but
what do I worry about?
No. I saw a post recently where you were worried about a seahorse that you had taken in. I was just wondering about an update on that.
That one, I think the one you're thinking of, in fact, I was just texting her while I was in here. She finally got what I advised her to do, and crossing my fingers, we'll see what happens.
Gotcha. Okay. I just wondered if there was any good news I was hoping for.
Is that the one with, well, the thing is, what happens is, okay, I get tail rot, I get all kinds of questions, and they all kind of float together, and I have to sort through.
No, I hear you. Just always looking for good updates, but
I think what I'm going to start doing is just say, contact Dan.
Poor Dan.
Speaking of treatment, you guys, I have a question, just something that occurred to me. I'm not having any problems yet, thank goodness. But about hospital tank, because I always read and hear, a 10-gallon hospital tank. But I have 3 seahorses. If they all have a bacterial infection, let's say, at the same time, can I treat them all together like in a 30-gallon tank instead of separating them?
You can treat them all in a 10-gallon.
Yeah,
because you're not going to have any biofiltration, because the antibiotic, if you tried biofiltration, it's going to kill off the bacteria anyway. And what you have
so
to do
basically it's a lot of water changes, right?
Yes. Yeah, you're doing 50% water change daily. I actually have round acrylic, they're food grade acrylic containers. And if I have to use any antibiotics or hospitalize, they go into those. And what I actually do is I actually change them out 100% every day. That way I have reduced my potential for having any ammonia spike, which is, of course, your biggest concern with that.
Generally
Where did
speaking,
you find those containers, Cheryl?
Restaurant supply houses.
Okay, because I'd like something like that. My tanks are acrylic. I love acrylic, so
Well,
Well, they
that
also are great, great
go
for
ahead.
I'd
pod
rather have
cultures.
plastic than glass any day for
Yeah. I
something
use them for
like
pod cultures. I used when I was raising rotifers. I used them for rotifers. And the thing is, they because they're food grade containers, they
Uh-huh.
can be sterilized at extremely high heat without breaking
Mhm.
down.
Gotcha.
Very cool. Thanks for
The-
your tip.
I do know this is another thing that Felicia covered in her speech at the Seahorse and Pipefish get together. But Dan, what were you going to say?
I was going to say, I normally use a 10-gallon tank, and I normally do a 50% water change unless I have a whole bunch in there. Um, I like the 10-gallon glass tanks because they're very easy to sterilize. The other thing that I recommend is to cover three sides of the tank when you move them
Yes.
to a hospital tank.
Mhm.
And that makes them feel more comfortable because they don't see out of the tank in the wide open.
Gotcha. That
Um,
makes sense.
Yeah.
and a 10-gallon tank is a loss leader. It's the cheapest tank you can buy. It's
Yeah.
even cheaper than a
Yeah,
5-gallon
yeah.
typically. Um, so, generally speaking, that's my preference, but it's not what you have to remember that we all like glass tanks, but any container that holds water works.
Yeah.
Yes.
The one thing I worry about in plastic stuff is that if I'm using
Mhm.
chemicals, the plastic holding the chemicals, where acrylic and glass, not so much.
Hmm.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Good point.
Hey, you guys, I thought of something else I'd kind of like to talk about
Sure.
tonight, just because it occurred here. Where I live, we have a lot of fire danger. We evacuate,
Mm.
occasionally due to fire. I know in some where you live, you have hurricanes, that kind of thing. I lost a couple years ago. We had a huge fire here. We were evacuated for close to 3 weeks, and
Mm.
I had just started my reef tank. Thankfully, I only lost a couple fish, didn't have my seahorses yet. But how can you, what's some ways you can deal with that disaster preparedness, like preparing tanks, evacuating them? How long can they go with you being gone? And how would you prepare a tank for that or take them with you? Like, what's thoughts on that?
You'd have to take them with you if you're going to be gone for a long period of time and you're looking at
Mm-hmm.
fires. What you might want to do is contact, and I know I've got friends that'll do it, have fish stores or propagation systems.
Mm-hmm.
Contact them in advance and say, hey, if this happens, can you help
Mm-hmm.
me out?
How,
Mm-hmm.
Dan, go.
how many seahorses do you have?
I have three, plus the
Okay. What I,
babies.
what I would tell you to do is to go down to Home Depot and get a bucket with a lid.
Got some
Okay,
of
one of
those.
those lids that's okay. Then
Got
go
those.
down to go to a bait shop and get a big bubbler bait aerator
Mhm.
called Big
A
Bubbles
bait
or Big
shop?
Bubbler. A
What did
bait
you
shop,
say? A bait shop?
Big Bubble.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep.
Or West Marine. West Marine, I'll have it too. But you want the one that takes the D cell batteries. Okay.
Okay.
Number one, it puts out a lot of air. But number two is that thing will run for about 48 hours before you have to change the batteries. Okay.
Gotcha.
And get yourself a rigid airline and some airline
Mm-hmm.
and put the seahorses in the bucket, put the bubbler on it, and off you go. Now, the other thing is that somewhere near there you need to have some salt so you can make up some salt water while you're out.
I was thinking that. Yeah,
Um,
bring a bag of salt.
and from the standpoint of an emergency situation, trying to deal with this, you also would be handy if you had a carboy or something to keep water in, and
Mhm.
you hit up the RO machines along the road.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Yeah, it would all depend how long you had to be out of there, what you
Yeah,
had
and
to
the thing
do.
is, the way it is here, this time of year, I stay packed and ready to go at any time. So I could easily put together a kit, for the aquariums, and then all I'd have to do, set up the bucket of water, put them in it,
Yeah.
and hit the road. And then I know people in other towns to stay with. So once I got somewhere, I could set them up, you know, a little tank or a bucket or what have you, and keep them going, you know, long enough while we're evacuated. Or like Cheryl said, I've thought about contacting, we only have one aquarium store anywhere near here. So, but I do have a good relationship with them. So talk to them and see, you know, if they'd be, you know, okay with me, you know, bringing some fish in, getting some water or whatever I need, you know.
It would be suboptimal unless they're not running everything on a flow through system. They have a separate tank. I've just got some long standing friends that I know that actually operate stores, and they have separate tanks that are not part of the flow through system that you can
Mhm.
regulate temperature and everything else that would help out. But it's one of those things. It just depends on how long you have to be out. And again, when you come back in, you're going to have problems again with your main tank, even if it's totally intact,
Oh
because
yeah.
you haven't been vetted or
No, I
anything.
went through that. It was horrible, but I mean the whole town burned down
Mm.
here. So I was lucky I had a home to come back to. Everybody else I knew lost their home in that fire.
Oh my gosh.
And so now that it's that time of year again, this was 2 years ago, I just live prepared for that, you know. And now that I have the seahorses, I want to be prepared as best I can for them too. And the thing about being evacuated is you never know if it's only going to be a couple hours, or like us, it was almost 3 weeks.
Yeah,
And what
exactly.
happened was probably the tanks would have been fine, but they shut the power off, and the power was off for I guess 5 days,
And
and
tanks
then came
tanks.
back on
Yeah.
during that time. And so what ended up happening in my tank, all the fish died. Thankfully, there was only two at the time. I lost like a blue spotted goby and a mandarin dragonet were the only
Mhm.
fish I had at the time. But my cleaning crew, everybody. But interesting, the water started cycling again on its own. So it came back. Yeah, I know it took
Mhm.
some time, but it came back and was healthy again not too long after. I was surprised.
Well, one of the things too, again, it's not going to do you much good with a fire, but I have a small portable generator, battery powered portable generator.
Oh yeah, we have those because
Okay.
they shut our power off here. We're on rotating outages sometimes because in the summer the power grid gets overloaded,
Yeah.
Mm.
and also because of fire danger, because this fire was started by faulty
Yeah.
PG&E equipment.
Yep.
So they got sued big time for that. We're all in a lawsuit. So now every time they think there's a chance, they'll shut off power. So I do have a generator just for the purpose of the aquariums. And then we have a whole house generator that we haven't installed yet, but that's kind of how it is here right now.
Jeez,
Well,
that's
I
terrible.
don't have no problems, but I have both a portable generator that I
Mhm.
can, in fact, it even will inflate tires, so I have air coming out of it. But
Cool.
it's one of those things where for shorter duration outages, it can
Uh-huh.
be very beneficial. And
Very.
I've inflated my tires. I've jump started my riding mower. This thing has an emergency light on it, the whole 9 yards.
Mm.
And it really is. I bought it thinking, well, I'll never use it, and I've used it for everything.
Uh-huh.
But when you have to evacuate, you're pretty much you got a big problem.
Mm.
And bottom line is you have to take care of yourself and your family.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fortunately, most of the time here, they give you plenty of time, especially since that big fire,
Yeah.
I usually leave before it's mandatory. When it's a warning,
Yeah.
that's the time to really get
That-
together and
That's when
leave.
you get out, because by the time it's mandatory, everything
Yeah.
will be backed up.
Oh, yeah, and everybody's going.
Yeah.
I spent my younger days out in California and in the San Fernando Valley area and going to Zuma Beach and the Wedge and places like that.
Mhm.
And I know, like Mulholland Canyon, that
Mhm.
burned more than one time. They couldn't get anybody in there because the slopes were so steep.
Mm.
And so then you get the Santa Ana winds coming through there and turns into a nightmare.
Mm.
And so I'm familiar with them. I mean, and I'm going back. Good. I was in my 20s. I'm going back over 40 years. So this is nothing new.
Yeah, no, it's been bad here this year. Yeah, you've
Yeah.
probably seen on the news. We had a lot of lightning strikes just all over the state.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm in the north part of the state. And in our county alone, we had 37 fires started in
Mm.
one day.
Mm-hmm.
Lightning.
So,
Dry lightning.
guys, I had to get up and do something with the kid and switch to red wine. Was the main answer, because I know that Dan actually posts a lot of articles and his own comments and how he prepares for hurricanes. I can't imagine lightning strikes and fires. Was the main answer protect yourself and your family, and then if you can protect the fish, have a generator? Was that it?
That
Yeah,
wasn't said, but that should be
Dan
what was said.
had some good advice about getting a battery pump from the bait shop, a bubbler,
Mm-hmm.
and throw them in a bucket.
Oh, yeah, I do have one of those battery powered air things. I'm not thinking battery powered air things for travel. If I have to, like when I was selling seahorses or just for whatever, if I had to travel with them at all, I had that air powered bubbler. But I heard Dan pipe up. You said that's what should be said. Do you have anything to add to that? I know
No,
you.
you got to think. You got to think of the people first, and from what
Mm-hmm.
she's saying, she's much more prepared than the average Joe.
Sure.
But the first consideration is family and the people, and
Mm-hmm.
then I would worry about the pets. Secondly,
Sure.
it, the thing that we always had to worry about was if we got hit with a Cat 5, would we stay or would we go?
Mm-hmm.
And when I had $40,000 worth of seahorses that were in various stages of growth, I wasn't real keen on taking off. I was more determined to stay and try to protect what I had. But now, it'd be very easy for me to leave, and I would highly consider leaving. Um,
Well, some
in
of
her
us, even
situation,
hobbyists, really love our seahorses. So, I mean, you're
no,
saying give
I
right
know, but
information, but
right, but when there's no way I could take what I had with me
right,
anywhere.
of course.
Dan,
Um,
there's no way you can move your operation.
but not just that, but I mean, people have offered for me to ship them to them, but you got to have a significant advance warning. I mean, just to pack them up, you're talking 3 days of packing.
Right.
And
Yeah.
you got to have all the stuff, and then you got the shipping cost, and it's just not feasible. Um,
Sure.
but when you don't have all that, now it's jump in a car and go.
Of course.
Um,
SK,
but
just to let you guys know, I'm sorry, S2K Chris 305, which is a new subscriber. Thank you, sir or ma'am. And said generators saved his reef or her reef. Sorry. Along with some backup battery powered bubblers in case of shortage of gasoline. Absolutely. And just to mention, I'll let you guys chat more, but Dan does a really good job on Seahorse Sources page of sharing information about preparing for hurricane weather. We just approached the fire weather tonight, which is a kind of a different thing. But sorry, Dan, if you were continuing.
no, the fire thing is different than what we deal with because we get advance notice, and
Yeah.
sometimes you get advance notice out there, but sometimes those things crop up and move quick. And if you get a lightning strike a half mile from your house and that stuff it takes off, you got to hustle. If
Yeah.
it's 10 miles away coming your way, you got time to think about it.
Well,
And-
Yeah,
the thing
either way, really, like you said, if it's close to you, you don't have that much time. Most of the time, it's far away and it's just spreading. So you do know about it. You're kind of ready.
but
what I
even
do is I just keep everything packed all the time. I travel a little bit for work, not as much during COVID, but normally I'm on the road a lot. So I actually keep all my valuables in the trunk of my car in case evacuation happens and I'm not home.
hey, quit telling your neighbors that. Just kidding. Sorry.
I don't think I have any neighbors that are on here.
Good.
when the
Well-
Hurricane Laura was coming in, and again, I live fairly far inland, but the thing is, where we're at risk is the tornadoes taking out power for us.
Yeah.
And when I know a hurricane is heading into the Gulf, I fill up all my containers with RODI water. I do salt mix. I have fresh water available for top offs if I need it. I've got a standard routine that I go through, but it's different when a fire, because they're not going to tell you
Right.
3 or 4 days in advance if there's a fire heading your way.
Sure. Well, I had a question
Especially
though.
not in California.
I had a question.
Here we do. We usually know days ahead.
Yeah. I was just going to ask.
I mean, that's a completely different situation.
I was going to ask about what we
Yeah.
were talking about earlier, because in the case of electricity going out, the generators and the battery-powered air bubblers are extremely important. You can also use a cup to, constantly be pushing the air back up over the surface. But with the air-powered battery or the battery-powered air pump that I was thinking of having to travel, but I was always going somewhere that would have the tanks set up. It wouldn't do you much good if if you were going somewhere or going to be gone a while or any of that stuff. So just wanted to mention that because I kind of implied that earlier, and that's probably not a good idea. So it depends on the circumstances, whether it's fire, hurricane, tornado, power outage, for sure.
My favorite backup is my little, I call it my camping generator. It's battery powered, hooked up to a solar charger. And last time I used it, I lost power for about 3 hours and had, I don't remember, 8 or 9 tanks set up. And I ran everything, the pumps, everything, air, the whole 9 yards, plugged everything in. And it was less than a third discharged by the time power came back on over 3 hours later.
Wow. That's awesome.
Pretty cool.
Yeah, I was really, I didn't think it would hold up that well.
Yeah.
But and I could have gone a lot longer.
Well, hey guys, listen, it's hitting that 9:40 mark. We had some technical difficulties and a great conversation. I know we could talk all night. But if you have any final questions in the comments or in here, ask now or wait till next week because I'm going to have to call it quickly. Ray, I want to call you out. Just make sure that there was nothing you wanted to say or ask or anything because you've been so quiet.
No, but you've got Cindy's got a couple questions she wants answered.
Thank you, sir. All right. Let me hop back in there. All right. Cindy asked, how many seahorses do you currently keep? I assume you're asking me. I currently have, I've downsized to 3 tanks of seahorses. So I currently have 3. The 90-gallon that I had all the grow outs is now empty. I've got what I kept in the 65. Then I've got a couple different species in the bedroom. Let's see. 2 more. What's your favorite macroalgae in it? Frankly, my macroalgae tank is not up to par where I'd like it to be. It's definitely not the way the pictures that I used to have showed. My favorite macroalgae to keep in a seahorse tank, just for the looks of it, would probably be Neomeris or what's the other one's name? Neomycin? No. The tough jointed algae or the pretty pink. I'll get back to you on the exact species. But thanks for asking, and we need to do more talk about macro in the future. And I didn't get your final question, Cindy. Ask away, hurry. And I did want to mention too that we will be discussing one of the things that I heard come up a couple of different times. Nicole had to leave tonight, probably because our room died, but also because she had just gotten home from vacation and she was in her her brine shrimp hatchery had failed while she was gone. Even though she had trained her children and taken care of it, they did something wrong. So she's rushing. Totally understand why you couldn't come back to join us, Nicole, but we want updates, and we will be having an episode very soon completely focused on hatcheries. We want to give Dan time. He just got a new computer. Want to give him time to get us some presentation material together. But we will be covering that in a future Wine Wednesday very soon. So, did I miss any other questions?
The worst part about mackerel
Yeah.
is when you've got fairly small young seahorses and they get into the macro and hitch and you can't find them anywhere.
Right.
They disappear.
Yes.
And then you're like, here's horsey.
I love it. I love it.
I don't keep macro in my nurseries or my grow out tanks.
I was gonna.
But I have had. Hey, I spent over 45 minutes one day looking for a 3-inch hippocampus comb female that I raised in a 29-gallon tank.
Oh,
And I finally spotted her when she decided to move.
Of course.
And I was about ready to start crying.
They're masters of camouflage, and the macro will take over. The tank that everyone liked the most of mine had multiple different species. I need to do a video or an episode sometime when I go through those species and what I like about them, what I don't like, how they work with seahorses. Cheryl has talked multiple times about quarantining macros to make sure you don't have any aptasia or anything in there. And as far as fry, I personally did use macro tanks for my fry for the first, I'd say, 6 months that I was trying to raise fry. And well, to let you know how that worked out, I only had one survivor from my first batch. I still have her, little Cheryl, but
you got hydroids and aptasia.
Yeah, hydroids and aptasia. So quarantine's a big thing. We'll try to dedicate a full episode to that. And I didn't see another question from Cindy. So anybody else got anything? Dan?
No.
No?
Nope.
All right. Well, for tonight, guys, I'm sorry it was kind of rushed at the end. I've got kids messaging and knocking. But we'll get all our technical difficulties fixed this week, I promise, and be back next week to cover any of your questions and hopefully have a more clear topic to keep us going. But thank you so much for joining us. Everybody say bye.
Bye.
Happy Wine
Good
Wednesday.
night.
Cheers.